What do you mean Dapple mention? Where's that? Also, good morning. Happy Low Ink Eve indeed. That was just because Che is here. Oh, hello, Che. What do you do for Dapple Productions? Che? Bullied everyone yesterday? Huh. Bullying people's not cool. I would assume you don't do anything with Triton Cup, which is going on right now for Dapple Productions. Plays Dapples? Oh, so you do literally nothing for Dapple Productions. Fair enough. Took your lunch money? It sucks to suck, don't it? Somebody was playing Dapples in that Japan solo queue tournament. I'm sure there was a lot of weird weapons being used there. So did I say Dapples are weird? I did. I did say that, actually. Weird weapon. Oh no. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, hell no. I gotta show y'all something. Hold on. This is a team that is currently pending. A team that is currently pending for low ink. So last month we had the... last month we had the DM Pop Gun mid set to get your... or whatever. Well, this month... we have a team currently pending with just one person, so I think they're just trying to troll me rather than actually be a team. This team is called Popgun's Headphone Dent, which the logo they're using, let's pull up the logo. No, I can't click on it. It doesn't expand that way. That is the picture they're using. What in the world? A headphone dent? That is... hold on. Now that picture is me with my head completely buzzed, like fresh cut. I do get haircuts, so let's... is it a bit of a dent? I don't know. I feel like that's just how heads are, right? I mean... what the heck is that? That's, their ass about to get banned from low ink the hard way. Hold on. That's a free tweet right there. I should probably put that on Blue Sky, actually. What is wrong with you guys? That has to be bullying to some extent. That has to be. Who's Tabri? Who is this? Hasn't played in low ink since December? Are they just trolling me or are they actually trying to play in low ink? Yeah, let's post on Blue Sky from now on. Let's not make funny posts on Twitter. Let's grow our brand. Do you guys just look at just random pictures? Oh, let's screenshot the Popcast. That's our next pickup team. I guess it was my logo that was used. There was another... somebody used a screenshot of me once for an image or something. I forget what it was. It wasn't the DM team last year or last month. That team just used my Discord profile. Man. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify. While you are deciding the fate of the Pringle Cat team, abandoning Twitter for the 5th time this year, never going to pick Cyndaquil again as your Gen 2 starter. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. This is the 249th episode of the Popcast. It took that long before somebody pointed out my headphone dent that's in the skull of my head, apparently. The next episode, which will be the Low-Ink recap, will be the fabled 250th frickin' episode of the Popcast. Exciting times. I've been kind of hinting at this, and I'm going to continue to hint at it because I'm not going to announce anything yet. But the 250th episode of the Popcast will not be different from anything I've been doing up to this point. But episode 251 will be. There are some big changes that have been in the works with the Popcast, and on Monday I will be happy to announce what those changes are. It's time for this thing to kind of take the next step up. I think I've kind of maxed out on what I would want this to be right now, and I'm trying to take it to another level. So be on the lookout for that. Exciting times coming up. Someone says they don't have audio right now. Oh, so that's just them muting it. You guys can actually hear me. Cool stuff. The CCA did send me some stuff, but I didn't do an episode on Monday because I was going to do one today. So I'll have some stuff to talk about with the CCA coming up on Monday as well. I do want to give more attention to the CCA because after talking with them, realized, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in the college scene, and it's kind of cringe that nobody's talking about it, including myself. So we should spend more time talking about the college scene because they're really popping off. It might be the most successful thing going on in competitive Splatoon right now, so it's a story worth telling. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the Popcast. Obviously, it is Low-Ink weekend. The only thing that you should be concerned about, Low-Ink registration is still going on for the next 5 hours or so. So if you would like to make a team that isn't bullying the shape of my head, you can still do so. We have 88 teams registered as of right now. That number will probably get to about 100 by the time we close, and then dip back down to 88 after we kick out all the people who don't update their splash tags. So it should be just a solid, healthy, good, solid Low-Ink. Solid. Not translucent or transparent. Good old-fashioned Low-Ink. If you can't play Low-Ink because you're too good for it or you're getting banned the hard way, Squid Junction is taking place that same time. I always love it when Squid Junction happens during Low-Ink weekend, so make sure you sign up for that from Dapple Productions. And then next weekend, of course, is the second qualifier for SAC. If you did not play in the first one, don't fret. There's 3 more, and you can still qualify for the finals of that event. So some good stuff coming down the pipe. And about 50 gazillion other tournaments going on right now on Sendow.inc. Oh boy. A lot of tournaments. A whole heck of a lot of tournaments. Today we are going to be previewing Low-Ink with what is going to be a redemption round of my top 10. My top 10s have been bad for the past 4 years. The past couple of months, they've been below average, which is below bad, which is not good. So we are going to get that right back up. I'm going to tell you who's going to win this tournament, and it's actually going to happen, and who's all going to finish number 1 through 10 in that exact order. I'm going to be spoiling Low Ink for you. All that and more. But first, gather round, children. It's time for a history lesson from your old Uncle Popgun. The way back in the long, long ago. A time when many of you probably weren't even part of the competitive Splatoon community, because maybe you joined in Splatoon 3 or halfway through Splatoon 2. Let's take a look at 2019. Why are we taking a look at 2019? Because SAC has just started. This 9th season of SAC kicked off last Saturday with the first qualifier taking place then. So pop quiz. This is season number 9 of SAC. How many seasons of SAC has there been? I'll give you 1 second. If you said 9, because it is season number 9, well, you really are an idiot in chat, because you clearly forgot about season 0. That's right. Sometimes tournaments start counting at 0 for some reason, even though 1 is when something happens. You can't start counting at 0. That's not how math works, but sometimes that's how things appear to work with tournaments that count themselves. Man, what did it actually look like, though? Season 0 back in January of 2019. Well, I can tell you all about it, because thanks to my Destiny Troop notebook here, where I recorded everything Destiny Troops ever did, my team played in it. SAC Season 0 Circuit Inaugural Tourney. It was a 2-day event. My team qualified for day 2. In fact, we qualified for the year equivalent of the alpha bracket in day 2, and we got beat up. Sons of Anaki beat us 4-1. That was that a best of 7 sets that we were playing? It had to have been best of 7. Oh my gosh, why were we playing best of 7 in a group stage of a tournament? We lost to Tsunami 4-1, and then we beat a team called Yeehaw 4-1. Looks like we played them on Clamblet Skipper Pavilion. Ugh. Yuck. We also played a team called Splat or Survive, as our Charger player Turkey pointed out. Wait a minute. Splat or Survive? That makes no sense. You should survive by splatting, if that's how that works out. SAC Season 0, the inaugural tournament taking place in January of 2019, was revolutionary at the time. There was nothing like it. A skilled cap tournament that was designed to be a circuit that was going to be catering to people that were Div 3 and below. And this was back when Div 7 was the basement of things. But they were going to take all Div 3 teams and below, have them play out through a season, and determine which one of them was the best. Sometimes an SAC season was 6 tournaments, 4 tournaments. In one case, it was 8 tournaments. You remember the squid spawning grounds and coast to coast? They had different names for each one of their tournaments with a whole different branding of package and stream. It was a whole giant mess. And the All-Star Tournament mixed in as well, one of the most popular things at the time. The All-Star Tournament lets take players from different teams, not pickups, but actual teams, mix them together for pickups and have them play for glory. Nowadays, you couldn't really do an all-star tournament because pretty much every single tournament is an all-star tournament, just a pickup of and a collage of who's who with stuff like that. The first ever tournament in 2019 of January that SAC ran had 53 teams signed up for it. 53 teams in 2019. When you account for inflation, that would be roughly 250 teams playing in a tournament today. The skill cap was Div 3, and the big controversy, I remember this, the big controversy of the first season of SAC was a team called Inc. Alpha, who was Div 2 at the time, and they were allowed to play in this Div 3 and below tournament. And that was the big stink that everyone was making on Twitter. Wow, they got a skill cap of Div 3, and they're already breaking their own rule by allowing this Div 2 team to play in it. But everybody that was counterpointing it saying, like, yeah, Inc. Alpha was not that good. They're not an actual Div 2 team. They're perfectly fine to be playing in this tournament. That was the big stink then. The season went along. The person who actually created SAC was very aggressive in their promotion of it. This person isn't part of the community anymore, so I won't name them by name. I was just doing research for this. Their Twitter's been deactivated. I think their Discord as well. But they would literally, if you played in the tournament, they would literally DM all the captains of the teams and be like, hey, here's the next tournament. You guys should sign up for it. Or I noticed you didn't sign up for this. You should do this. That kind of aggressive marketing, I don't condone stuff like that, but back in the day, that's just kind of how it was. But this at the time was the premier skill cap tournament. Was Loink around before SAC started? Yes, it was. Loink technically came first in 2018 before SA did in 2019. However, Loink was kind of just a mom and pop tournament back then. As I said, in this January 2019 tournament, 53 teams played in SAC. For comparison, the next month, the February Loink that took place then had a grand total of 14 teams playing in it. You won't find this on Battlefy, by the way. You will only find this on Challenge. Only on Challenge do these old ancient Loinks exist. Imagine if so few teams signed up for Loink that by just signing up for it, you already qualified for Alpha Bracket. That's how small these things were back then. So you can't compare SAC to Loink at the time because SAC was just the first big skill cap tournament ever. And it took Loink about a year or so to catch up to that kind of level as far as getting its kind of credibility. But SAC out the gate was just so revolutionary at the time. After a few seasons of the first SAC and Loink started to improve, this became the new standard for what the community was as far as like the skill pyramid is concerned. SAC's role kind of developed to being that next step. If you got banned from Loink, or you won Loink and you got banned from it, or you were just never eligible for Loink to begin with, or you were Div 4 or whatever, SAC was the tournament for you. So as soon as you're too good for Loink, you immediately had a tournament that was catered just right at your skill level, as well as teams that were just technically right above your skill level as well. It also served a second purpose. You know how there's this narrative that Loink teams don't play in tournaments that are open? I don't know if that narrative's true anymore. On Monday, I will give you guys a little bit of research that I'm going to be doing over the course of this weekend. I'm looking at every team that signed up for this month's Loink and the Alpha Bracket teams from last month and seeing if they actually played in open tournaments at any point. I'm getting the sense that the narrative that Loink teams don't play in tournaments outside of Loink is actually not true anymore, but we'll have actual data on that in the future. But if you were to say Loink teams they just don't play in tournaments outside of things. That's what SAC used to be. If you wanted to prove that you could be banned from Loink, well, here's the tournaments that's the next step up. Obviously, if you can hang with the big boys up here, should be a good opportunity for you to prove you should be banned from Loink. So that was the two purposes that SAC used to hold back when it was a Div 3 tournament. For my team particularly, after we won Loink, well, there it goes, talking about Destiny Troops winning Loink for the 20th time. Stay with me. It was exciting to win Loink, and we didn't disband because the next day we knew exactly what our goal was going to be. We were already in the middle of an SAC season at that time. We were going to finish that out, and then we knew our next goal, now that we've won this tournament, we want to win an SAC. So we spent there was like 6 months in between that and the next season. We spent all that time practicing, grinding, solidifying our roster. We brought in Haya. We knew there were so many Tetra teams we were going to have to play, so we spent a lot of time practicing against Tetras to make sure we were ready for that matchup where we're going to see a lot in the SAC season. It gave us something to look forward to in the practice for, and we took advantage of that. That gave us basically 6 months to a year of a goal to work for next. We ended up finishing second place to Xanadu at the end of the season. Still a little bit upset about that. You added a player that wasn't on your roster all along, and if you didn't have that player, we would have kicked your butt. But yeah, well, maybe there'll be some like reunion tournament and we can get back at them at that point then. But still, that was kind of the set. Oh, I'm banned from low ink. There's nothing for me to do. No, there is. SAC's just for you. And if you're looking to get banned from low ink, guess what? SAC is for you as well. Things have obviously changed, though. If you've been paying attention to SAC and you've been hearing me talk about how it used to be Div 3, you're probably scratching your head and being like, when was it Div 3? This is a Div 1 tournament now. How did that change come about? How did SAC go from being the obvious next step for teams that are banned from low ink to a tournament for teams that could win any weekly that doesn't have FT Win signing up for it because they want another badge? How did this happen? I have the answer for you. The first time that IPL approached SAC, this was after SAC had been dormant for an extended period of time. They hadn't run a new season in a while. There was an obvious gap in what you could do after you got banned from low ink. So IPL approached SAC and was like, hey, what if we partnered up? What is it that is preventing you guys from running another season? What can we provide to you to help run that next season, and then you run your tournaments on our platform, and we stream SAC going forward? What do we have to do to make that happen? Eventually, yes, SAC partnered with IPL, and that's how you got it to what it is today. Part of those negotiations, I guess, was that the SAC group wanted IPL to take on their sister tournament as well, this tournament called Midway. Now, Midway was the same exact format as SAC at the time. However, it was supposed to be the next step above SAC. So when you get banned from SAC, well, now Midway is the tournament you're going after. Midway was a Div 1 and below tournament. So it was supposed to be low ink, SAC, and Midway. Well, Midway wasn't really that popular. There was like a handful. You wouldn't really see 20 teams signed up for it. They would get like 10, 15 in that kind of like 18 team range that would sign up for Midway. It just wasn't really that popular, but SAC tried to grow it and tried to make it into something, so that when they approached or we approached them to try to take on SAC, they said, take Midway as well, and then we'll make it a deal. Well, obviously, Midway is not a tournament anymore. You guys probably have never heard of Midway before. The reason being is IPL decided, well, let's take SAC and let's take Midway and let's find a way to combine them both into one tournament and just call it SAC. And that's essentially where we got to where it is today, to where it is a much higher skill cap than Div 3. I believe it was Roundy that first season that IPL took over SAC that tried to change what the skill cap was, not by looty divs, but by looking at the plus server and say, instead of you being in this looty div, which is hard to kind of determine who is what at what div when looty divs are so old, especially where they are right now. They're like 4 or 5 months old at this point. So Roundy said, let's look at something that goes 1 month at a time, which is the plus server voting. So if you get voted into +3, you're fine. But if you get voted into +2, then you're above the skill cap, which seems like a good idea. Instead, because it's updated monthly at the time, and it is like a peer voting kind of system. But then I don't think that ended up working out, just because you're letting the plus server voters decide who is and isn't eligible for SAC, and the voting was already kind of corrupt as it was. It's completely different from now it is right now. Now it's like, every 3 months, and even if you don't get voted in, you can play your way in based on what kind of Skindal points that you get over the course of that season. So that didn't really work out, although it made sense at the time. I don't know if you could get away with doing the plus servers as a skill cap at this point. So over the course of time, and due to feedback, the skill cap has now grown to the point to where it is Div 1 and below are allowed in SAC. And that's the story of how SAC went from a Div 3 tournament to a Div 1 tournament. Now, before I go any further, I do just want to point out, it doesn't matter what the skill cap of SAC is. You're still going to run into this same issue regardless. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Div 1, Div 3, Div 7. It doesn't matter. There's still like an issue that circuits are just going to naturally have by default. Bravely. So when we verify you for low ink and we allow you to play in low ink, what we are essentially saying is, for this weekend, you are under the skill cap for low ink. What team you are Monday or a month later, we have no clue. But for at least this small time period, we are saying you're okay to play in our tournament underneath the skill cap. For SAC, it's a little bit different, or any kind of circuit that takes extended period of time. It's like, okay, you're under the skill cap today, but will you be under the skill cap by the time the third qualifier or the fourth qualifier comes around? You can't, as a TO, a player, an analyst, a guy with a dent in his head, you can't sit here and say anybody's going to be the same team a month from now. Ludi divs are like buying a brand new car. As soon as you drive that car off the lot, the value of that Ludi div has depreciated and continues to depreciate over time. It doesn't matter if you drive the car or not. The more you drive the car, the value of it goes down. But even if you just buy it and let it sit in your garage, it's not like that thing is becoming more expensive over time. It's just like if you get Div 3 and you put the controller down, it's not like, oh, well, I should be eligible from low ink now because I haven't played the game in 2 years. It's like, no, that's not how that works. But the value of whatever div you got, it could go up, it could go down. To say you're the same team, and you're not going to be the same team you are today as you are 2 weeks from now, let alone 2 months from now. So any kind of skill cap you put on SAC, it's always going to be a TOing struggle to make it work. The rule has always been, if you were under the skill cap when you first signed up, you're going to be fine. So if you got put into like Div X, or you got put into +2, which is always the SAC nightmare when a Ludi just pops up in the middle of a circuit and then their whole thing just gets blown up all of a sudden. They just got a bunch of Div 2 teams playing in their tournament basically because they've been winning SAC, and it's like, uh-oh, now how do we stretch this to make it work? So that's always just kind of a frustrating thing you can't really get around regardless. But now that SAC is a Div 1 tournament, as opposed to the Div 3 tournament it was back before IPL took it over, is it still fair to say that SAC is the next step, or is it even fair to call it a mid-level tournament now, since it has a brand new skill cap? Well, let's look at the first qualifier that took place this last weekend and make that determination. The team that won the first qualifier for Season 9, Chocolate Milkshake. It has a person on it that is in +2, a couple of people that are in +3. I have no idea what their Ludi div is. I'm assuming they're Ludi div 1 or below. But a +2 player, at least I think for the first time, has won a first qualifier in SAC. All right, fair enough. When you have a Div 1 skill cap, you're going to see a team like that in there. Cool. The team that took second place was a team that got their low ink band certificate at Riptide a month ago. Insomniac Central. How did Insomniac Central go from playing in low ink in June of this year to being second place in a Div 1 skill cap tournament? How did that happen? They must have improved dramatically overnight. Oh, actually, I looked at their roster. They had 2 players that are currently in Div 1 that joined their team after they got banned from low ink. That tends to make a little bit of a difference there. Now, that's not to poo-poo anything. I believe Sam was the coach of Insomniac Central when they were in Low Inc. And there are still, like, obviously players that were in Low Inc. that were a part of that. But when you raise the skill cap, you're allowed to kind of recruit more players into your event. And that obviously helped Insomniac Central makes the nice jump up in there to second place. Third place, Loxier. Now, I'm not gonna argue against Loxier being in third place in this event at all. Wow. When we saw Loxier play in their one Low Inc. and they didn't win it, I think Zestfest upset them. We still were like, okay, you guys aren't going to get to play in a second Low Inc. You guys are a bit too good. You guys are really good. You were curb stomping Low Inc. and yeah, banning them after one Low Inc. was the right call because these guys really popped off. Now, still, even Loxier has added Chase247, who's long been banned from Low Inc. afterwards, but still not a bad placement for Loxier. I'm not surprised they finished at least podium in this. The team that finished in fourth place, I believe, is a pickup team called Tigers in 4, which is unfortunate because I believe the Tigers ended up losing to the Guardians in 5 games. You don't remember because they lost. You don't really remember losers like that. But the Tigers definitely did not beat the Guardians in 4, and they didn't beat them, period. But the Tigers in 4 did at least finish in 4th place. And you look at the roster for Tigers in 4, and you're like, okay, cool. This is a solid, legit Low Inc. team. Or not, I'm sorry. This is a solid, legit SAC team. Regardless of what the skill cap would be, this is the tournament that used to cater to what the team Tigers in 4 was. So that was a good, it was good to see them finish in the top 4 in that one. Now, you didn't see hardly any Div 1 teams. You did see Div 1 players playing this Div 1 skill cap. You didn't see a lot of Div 1 teams playing it. I wonder if that had something to do with 4v4 Sundays taking place at the same exact time. How can 4v4 Sundays take place on a Saturday? That makes no sense. You got to change your name there, Max. Come on now. But 4v4 Sundays, I'm assuming, drew in a lot of those Div 1 caliber players to that tournament who were going to be playing in that. So will some of those players come back and play in SAC, the second qualifier, next Saturday? That will be remain to see. There might be like an in the zone or something like that going on. I'm not sure. But we'll see with the second qualifier. For the teams that signed up, though, for this first qualifier, and they had more teams signed up in this last season's qualifier than in the season 8. 8 comes before 9 mathematically. So the numbers have been going up, and the feedback apparently said more Div 1 teams. I wonder who left the feedback that more Div 1 teams should be allowed in. Could it possibly be Div 1 teams that said, hey, you should let us play in this tournament? Well, why didn't you guys sign up for it then? But this begs the question. Who is the one group for the entirety of the existence of the Popcast that has been crying and begging for a tournament to be built to cater towards them? Teams that are banned from Low Inc. And everybody acknowledges this. Oh, these are the players who don't have anything. They get banned from Low Inc. and there's just nothing for them to do, so they disband and then they go away and they play Valorant or whatever, and we never see them again. The teams go away. The players don't really. They seem to stick around a little bit, but still, case in point, we've been acknowledging that as an issue for a long time now. Why has nobody tried to cater an event to that group that has been complaining for such a long time? And I think people feel like they've tried to do that, but when you have a tournament that's Div 1, that doesn't really appeal to people who just got banned from Low Inc. It's not catered to them, which is fine. And don't you dare. I don't want to see a single person say, well, what about the tournaments that have skill floors, Popgun? The tournaments to where you sign up for it and you get a pat on the back just for signing up for it. Those are not tournaments that are catered to teams that just got banned from Low Inc. They're not. And don't let anybody Jedi mind trick you into thinking that they are. Are they? I think it's a good idea because nobody has done a skill floor tournament before. Level Up did 2 years ago when they first initiated that. Then Neon Whale picked up that same kind of format. But what these formats have kind of provided is this unintended consequence. Well, maybe not an unintended consequence, but it's more of a different kind of sense that you get from this tournament as far as what reward that you get for participating in it. Anybody who was part of the Looting Seating Council would agree with me that this happened. You look at all the teams that signed up and the results that they put down. We saw a lot of people and teams put down that they are level up eligible or neon whale eligible, which is cool. Great. What you saw almost nobody put down was the results that they got in said tournaments. They wanted you to know that they are allowed to play in those tournaments, but nobody has been actually playing in those tournaments. It's like, okay, cool. That's great. You're eligible for Neon Whale. Who have you beaten that tournament? Oh, we're just eligible for it. We played in it like maybe once and then didn't come back. Okay, then why should I care that you're eligible for it? Like, what's the point? These skill floor tournaments have, unfortunately, the prize is just signing up. They've literally created participation trophies that people are putting in their send-out bios, and we're supposed to be impressed with it. It's like, okay. Like, if you want to say you're banned from Low Inc., that's cool. That's us saying, please leave our tournament alone. Go away. Go do something else. It's not saying a vindication that you should be allowed to play in something else because that's not our prerogative. But still, that is the unintended consequence. And don't tell me these are mid-level tournaments. The last team to win Neon Whale was Facade, one of the most underrated Div 1 teams of all time. I've been on record saying, yeah, we screwed up putting them in Div 1 because they curb stomped that one. The team that won Neon Whale before Facade was Shush, who was literally in Div X, played, I think, a record number of Game 5s in Div X. So these are basically just open-level tournaments to where you just, like, the 4 or 5 low-ink teams that would sign up for a double M tournament aren't allowed to sign up for it. Like that. So don't tell me those are mid-level tournaments. I think they deserve credit, especially Level Up for being the first ones to try it, but don't sit here and try to tell me that these things are mid-level tournaments or that they're catering to teams who just got banned from Low Inc. In idea, if there was like a skill cap, maybe, but when Shush and Facade are winning these things, it's an open tournament. It has to be. So with the SAC cap creeping higher and higher, I question if this event that used to serve the purpose of teams that just got banned from Low Inc. Here's the thing for you to grind for. Teams that are looking to get banned from Low Inc. Here is the tournament you can play in to prove that you should be banned from it because it is all the teams that are just the next step above you, and they're all right here. You get to fight them. Prove your grounds in a sense. I question if the SAC still has that kind of purpose right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not dislike SAC as it stands today. I think it's a really great idea. I think a circuit that caters to a skill level that is like right below teams that can qualify for 20XX, I think that's a really cool idea. And I think there's a lot of teams that would be interested in that. I think the numbers increasing kind of justify that reasoning that I have. And I think without 4v4 Sundays going on, you're going to see that number increase as well. I think and it's certainly a lot of effort's been put in from the staff. This is like a tournament of love that they're creating here. They're putting a lot of effort into the production, the podcast that they do on a bi-weekly basis before all of the tournaments take place. Like, they're putting a lot of effort to try to make SAC as successful as they possibly can. And I think it is going to be because of that effort that they put into it. Like, they clearly love this tournament. And I think all the Div 1 teams that would want that kind of attention, not at a 20XX level, but still just like being talked about over the course of a circuit, I think there is a market for stuff like that. The staff's doing a fantastic job. I just don't think it's fair to call it a mid-level tournament or even the next step above what Low Inc. is. And I think they would get more participation in what the Low Inc. or what SAC has become if they just changed how they market it. SAC stands for today, Squid Advanced Circuit. It used to stand for Splatoon Amateur Circuit. It's Squid now instead of Splatoon because the overlords put out a community guideline that said you can't use like certain words in your tournament. So just to make sure, no, Nintendo, the S stands for Squid, not Splatoon. Don't come at us like that, bro. But before, it used to be called the Amateur Circuit instead of the Advanced Circuit. Why is it now the Advanced Circuit instead of the Amateur Circuit? Because you little babies couldn't handle being called amateurs. Literally, there were people that wouldn't play in SAC because, oh, I'm not an amateur. Newsflash, sweetheart, we're all amateurs. Nobody is playing Splatoon professionally, okay? It's not happening. Even if you're sponsored by some organization, you're not a professional competitive Splatoon player, all right? We're all amateurs by the exact definition of the word. But players don't like it. Oh, I don't like being called an amateur. And I think some teams look at SAC and they think about what the brand itself used to be. And they see the word mid-level and they think, yeah, I'm Div 1, but I'm not a mid-level team. I don't want to play in a SAC tournament that used to be Div 3. I'm too cool for school for something like this. The circuit idea is great. But man, if they just drop the mid-level tag and just change it. If you've ever been looking for a grandma got run over by a reindeer cup, this might be it. This might be the best use. And they honestly might get more registration for the teams they're actually trying to target if they got that. But I don't think teams want the stigma of playing in an SAC or a mid-level. But even though the skill cap has grown so much that it has kind of lost the plot of what SAC used to be. The brand and the product just don't match right now. But it's a long season, and I'll be keeping an eye on it. Now, obviously, we'll continue to talk about it. I listen to the podcast they do. I'm a big fan of SAC, both what it is in the past and what it is right now. I think it's a great product for what it could be. I just think the matching and the messages just doesn't mix anymore. If it doesn't want to cater to the teams that just got banned from Low Inc., that's fine. Just don't pretend that it is anymore. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid, call it a circuit for teams that are not good enough for SAC or for 20XX, and just hit the ground running with that. And for the rest of you that want to make a mid-level tournament, well, there's an opening at 3 a.m. on Tuesdays where nobody's running a tournament. So try it then. Oh, my wife's home. That's why the dog just barked. Tapri asks if they are banned. How dare you? What's wrong with you? I don't have an headphone dent. Now, are you actually trying to play in this tournament, or were you just kind of getting a chuckle out of me? You did get a chuckle out of me. But if you actually want to play, you need 3 more players by the end of the day. Low Inc. Top 10. And then we'll call it a day. I will hopefully say this. Dare to? Who dared you to do it? Name names. Who are you working for? I am putting this on record right now, and I know I've been hinting at this for a while, but I want to speak it into existence. I am hopeful that this is the last Low Inc. that we run on Battlefy. I think everybody's ready for us to move to Sindow.Inc. Nobody wants to move over there more than Low Inc. staff does. It has been a work in progress. The tournament is just so big that it's a lot of different parts. It's Swiss. Sometimes it's group stage. Sometimes it's double limb. Sometimes it's single limb. It takes the course of 2 days. We have verification set up a very specific way. It's a lot. So we're hopeful that this will be the last Low Inc. that we do on Battlefy. I'm not saying it is, but we're in like the final stages of getting that done. Man, when it moves to Sindow, and it runs smoothly. Like we figure out all the issues like a couple of months later, we're going to be cookies and juice. We don't have to ping you guys about splash tags anymore. You just automatically do it when you make your Sindao account. It's so much easier for us to verify you just by looking directly at your Sindao account instead of like, well, here's what your Battlefy and your start.gg and your Sindao all say. Like, it's just so much easier. Things are going to be smoother. We don't have to ping you guys. Well, we'll still ping you to check in, but we don't have to manually enter all 100 teams in a 15-minute window to get you guys into Swiss groups where seeding doesn't matter after round 1 anyways. So there's just so much things that's going to be easier across the board when it happens, and I'm hopeful that this is one of, if not the last month that we're on Battlefy. And I'm not going to miss it. I'm not going to miss it. And the good news is, if we go through Battlefy and we're like, or we go through Sindao.inc and we're like, man, I missed when Battlefy did this, or this is the one feature we're missing by moving to Sindao. We can just go to Sindao and be like, hey, can you just add this? And Sindao, for the most part, has been like, yeah, I can add this, or like, here's why I can't add something like this. You're going to miss the ding-dong noises. Doo-doo. Well, maybe you can go to the big man and try to get that added themselves. I don't know. We've also added some new staff this week, and they've been great so far. We'll see how we go this weekend. Brush is going to be available at points this weekend. I don't have to work. I don't think I helped. No, I did help out with Sunday with Flowing last month. I'm going to be here this whole weekend. We're going to bring back the pre-show, baby. We're doing the pre-show tomorrow in the IPL Discord server. We love doing that. That's one of my favorite things to do in general. Would like to do more of that on a show like this. Hint, hint. So maybe some... tune in for that, call in, give us some information about you, give us your hot take, whatever it is. But the pre-show will be in the IPL server tomorrow. But who's going to win this tournament? As of right now, we have 91. So 3 teams signed up during the Popcast itself, with 9 more pending. So be it. Which one of these 91 teams is going to win this tournament? I'll tell you right now. First off, the honorable mentions, and I got 3 here. An honorable mention goes out to Magical Cure Love. They made beta bracket last month, and they won Mako bracket 2 days ago. So not really, I'm not sold on putting them anywhere near the top 10, but I do want to at least give them an acknowledgement, because I wouldn't be surprised if Magical Cure Love were to find their way into their first alpha bracket this time around and get some damage done. Another honorable mention, which might be weird to some, is Meows the Chance. If you recall, Meows the Chance is a team that took second place just a few months ago, so obviously they should be somewhere in the top 10. The reason I got them in the honorable mention is I don't know if we're going to allow them to play in low ink. We haven't verified them yet because they signed up today or either late last night. I think they're from Australia. So I have no idea if they're even eligible or not. If they are, they're going to be top 1 or top 2. But I'll at least put them in the honorable mention now until we take a look at them later. That is not to say that all these 10 teams that I'm about to list off, all of them are eligible for low ink. I might list off a team that we end up banning later. I don't know. It's just Meows the Chance is definitely the most borderline team that could be banned, and maybe somebody else from the top 10 will as well as we continue verification deep into tonight. Also, Flipside gets a honorable mention as well. I don't know much about Flipside. They made Alpha Bracket. They signed up again. Cool. Make Alpha Bracket again. And then we'll put you somewhere in the top 10. How about that? Speaking of my top 10, let's get right into it and see how horrible this goes. Number 10. I love putting former beta bracket champions in the top 10 because beta champions from the previous month always do well the next month. So here's the honorary spot at number 10 being held for Honor Bound, who, if I'm being completely honest, I'm not 100% sold on them just yet. They've been taking a long climb up to get to the point to where they're winning beta bracket, but now let's sneak them into the top 10. This could be a breakout month for them. And like I said, they won beta last month, and they came really close to qualifying for alpha as well. So I love to see them make alpha outright this month and do some damage so we can see what this squad is really all about. Number 9. Sonora was a team I added to my top 10 list last month and apologized that I missed them beforehand, that I overlooked them and didn't give them the credit they deserve. Well, giving them the credit they deserved might have cursed them, causing them to get eliminated in round 1 of losers in alpha bracket. Oops. But to prove that being in the top 10 is not a curse, and that last month was a fluke for Sonora, I'm putting them back on here again. Why? Because they're good and will prove it once again this month. Number 8. Coming in at number 8 is Delicious Steak Dinner. I have to admit, though, I'm not really a steak guy. Don't get me wrong, I like steak in general, but I'll never turn down a well-cooked steak, or I should say a medium rare steak. But I couldn't tell you the difference between a $15 steak and a $150 steak. We do have a good steakhouse downtown in Indianapolis, St. Elmo's, and I have been there before. And they serve like those traditional like triple-digit steaks. I got a pork chop just because I didn't feel like I would appreciate a steak cooked to that kind of dollar amount as much as like a steak that they serve at Longhorn Steakhouse or something like that. So sue me. But this weekend, we will all know what a delicious steak dinner looks like when it comes to competitive Splatoon, because this team is going to show us all just how good a delicious steak dinner really can be. Number 7. Last month for Celestial, just playing through the tournament was a good sign. They had to drop 2 months ago because they accidentally left key players off their roster by the time registration had closed. And since there was no Low-Ink 3 months ago for Super Jump, that means the great run Celestial had that has kept them in the top 10 for this long, that was all the way back in June, where they finished tied for 5th place overall, losing a Game 3 to Insomniac Central, of all teams. But that was 4 months ago. Yes, they made alpha last month, but a lot has changed since June. When they play, they make alpha, and it's just a matter of time before they return to threatening for a podium position. Hopefully, this is that month for them. Number 6. Title Disruption. Number 5. While I am not much of a steak person, I'm also not much of a consumer of alcohol anymore since I've had a kid. And even when I was, though, I don't really recall ever having moonshine. It just doesn't sound like an appealing kind of drink to me at all. But if I know anything about moonshine, it's that it gets better as it's aged. Well, same thing with the Team Moonshine, who went from going 3-3 in May to making alpha bracket the next month that they played in Low Ink, which was last month. The only problem is they didn't play in alpha, dropping for whatever reason, much to the relief of everyone else who made alpha last month, because Moonshine was the only team to beat the eventual champions in the Swiss stage. Hopefully they can make it all the way through this weekend and show us just how strong they really are. Number 4. 2 months ago, Little old Inkbound was in beta bracket, making a decent run through the losers bracket. Last month, you could say they made a bit of an upgrade, finishing third place overall. If I had to make an educated guess as to how they improved so much, it might be due to the fact that the August Lowink was their first as a new team, then afterwards gaining experience and synergy for a month, for the next month where they're able to show what they were really capable of in September. Or it could be the fact that they just got a Hydra player and Hydra is clearly broken in this game. So how do they follow up a bronze medal? It's hard to make it back to podium 2 months in a row in low ink, and very rarely do we ever see it. In fact, when a team makes podium, we usually see them get banned from low ink before they even get back into the top 5 of low ink. But it's good enough to at least put them in my top 4 here this time around, because I was not expecting them to do as well as they did last month. Number 3. The Dash Before Time 3. The Time of the Great Goober. I have some bad news for y'all. The name is going to get shortened. That name is just way too long, and when you have a really long name, it makes things weird on stream and also on Battlefy, so we as the TOs are going to step in and probably get rid of the subtitle and just call them The Dash Before Time. However, I appreciate the Land Before Time reference. My wife and I use Land Before Time to celebrate our anniversary since there are so many Land Before Time sequels. So our 10-year anniversary that we celebrated this last year, we've labeled it the Great Long Neck Migration Anniversary. This is essentially 2 Goober, 2 Dash last month, who placed in 4th place and should make a deep run this time around. The real question is, if they don't win low ink this month and they don't get banned next month, what 4th movie are they going to name themselves after when they sign up for the 4th time? I have no idea. They already missed Electric Boogaloo and Dash 3 and Knuckles. Somebody else used that one. Number 2. Did you know Royalty and Inkbound are basically attached at the hip? They both finished tied for 5th in beta bracket in August. And they both played in losers finals. And they played against each other in losers finals of alpha bracket last month. Royalty taking the prize and finished runner-up of the whole event. The bad news. I haven't gone back and looked at this stat in a while, but I know it hasn't changed much, if not at all. Teams that finish 2nd place never win low ink the next month. In fact, teams that finish 2nd place usually do way worse. Maybe they make alpha bracket, but that's like the peak of what they do the next month. It's just so difficult to get back there. Low ink is a brutal tournament to win, regardless of what your skill level is. And this could be a case where we see Royalty get banned before they win it. But can Royalty break the 2nd place curse? Statistics would say no. But they got the results to justify being this high on the list regardless. But they're not going to win it. This is the team that's going to win. The number 1 team on my top 10 list and the clear winner that's going to be named this weekend. Ye who pulls the mighty sword Excalibur from the LSL Championship shall soon be the winner of low ink as well. At least that is what Excalibur is hoping for anyways. Do you know, despite the statistic I just said about 2nd place low ink teams doing historically bad in low ink, there has been a handful of times where 2nd place teams actually did win low ink the next month, like once or twice. However, no team has ever won Little Squid League and low ink, period. I'm not saying in the same month or the same year. Like, nobody can say they've won LSL and low ink. Now, there might, that is a crazy stat. And there might be like individual players who can say they've won. Like maybe they were on a team that won LSL and then they were on a pickup that won low ink. I wouldn't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. But no actual team, not Zestfest, not Octopi, and countless others, can say they are LSL champs and low ink champions and have both trophies to pair with each other. Excalibur, who won the September Little Squid League in the 41st edition of Little Squid League, will look to make history this weekend, and I'll go out on a limb and predict that they will accomplish that goal. So there you go. Now, if you do not agree with what I just said, and if you do not, and if we end up banning one of these teams in my top 10 before and they don't even get a chance to actually play in this tournament, or you feel like, wow, Popgun didn't say anything about my team, I'm going to go on Twitter and prove him wrong and make fun of the shape of his skull. Well, I got news for you. I always start off my Monday editions of the Popcast after Low Inks to give out apologies when apologies are warranted. Sometimes you guys don't get apologies, Octoplasm, because you don't deserve one. But if you do deserve one, I give it to you every time. Until then, if you'd like to be a part of the Popcast, feel free to reach out to my socials below. Let's skip the Twitter because that is insane right now. I've gained 100 followers on Blue Sky the past 24 to 48 hours. That's not because I'm that cool. It's because Twitter is that bad. Feel free to reach out. At Blue Sky, I am just popgun.bluesky.social. I think I might just be Popgun on Blue Sky. I'm not sure. But also YouTube at 25Popgun and Twitch at Popgun25, anchor.fm/Popgun. Let's raid Dapple Productions because I'm assuming Triton Cup is still going on, and I don't know the name for Dapple Productions. It's without an underscore. Good luck this weekend. Make sure you play in Low Ink, play in SAC, play in Squid Junction, and stay out of trouble, get vaccinated, stay safe, wear a mask when applicable. We will see you this weekend, and we'll see you at the Low Ink pre-show tomorrow in the IPL Discord server at 11:35 in the morning.